What is happening, guys? My name is Adam, I am a Super Swan, and welcome to another installment of the PSG experiment, where we take them around Europe and see if they can win the leagues, not just in their own country, but in other countries as well. Are they only winning the French league because there's no competition, or can they do it across Europe? In today's episode, we have moved them into Russia. They've gone a bit west from France. This is going to be a lot more colder for them now whilst they go into Russia. But here are PSG. They are now in the Russian league. And if I'm honest, it's a league where we are expecting them to dominate in. There's not many teams that can put up with them. Maybe CSKA Moscow, the closest. Spartak Moscow won the league last time out. So I think they're going to be the only two real contenders for the title. But I think we're probably going to see a lot of PSG dominance in this league. I think it's going to be more of an experiment if PSG can improve the Russian division, because if they win it all the time and if they go in the Champions League and do well, they can maybe go above 6th place in the league rankings, maybe go a bit higher than France where they originally came from. So that's kind of going to be what we're going to monitor in this experiment. So they are now in Russia. As per always, we're always going to go 1 year in the future, then a further 2 years in the future, then a further 3 years in the future. So 6 seasons in total are going to be covered. Can PSG win in Russia? That's going to be the question we are going to find out today. So what we're going to do, guys, we're going to go to the end of the season, see how they do. Will they conquer Russia in their first year? I will see you at the end of the season. One thing I should mention as well is that the team that PSG have bought the rights to play in Russia is CSKA Khabarovsk. And it's the same reason as the other ones, is that they have the lowest reputation in the league. So they've bought their place in Russia's Premier Division. This is part of a series, so you can click, and here we go for the fun, is you can click up there. There should be an indicator up there where you can view the playlist of all the other countries that PSG have tried to conquer. I will also leave in the comments below all the other episodes as well. So you can, if there's a specific country that you're interested in, it'll be in Europe, have a look down the comments below. So I will see you at the end of the season and see how PSG got on in Russia. We've arrived at the end of the season. It's May 2018. Let's have a look at PSG. Let's see if they managed to conquer Russia at the first attempt. And they have. They've won the Russian Premier Division. They've lost 3 games all season, drew 1. They'll have a look at the league table in full, just to get an idea of how dominant they were. And yeah, 79 points. They were a good 17 points clear of Zenit St. Petersburg, a team I forgot about in the intro. So I'm very sorry, Zenit fans. They are quite a big team in Russia, to be fair, but they were the closest challengers to PSG. Ran away with the title. Wasn't really much of a contest there. They did get to the first knockout round of the Champions League. They were knocked out at the first hurdle, not including the group stages. But we'll have a look. We'll see how they got on. So obviously in this year they would have represented France. They came second in their group behind Napoli, Besiktas and Ajax in their group as well. And in the first knockout round, they got through to Manchester United, where they got knocked out 5-2 on aggregate, including what looks like a 4-1 loss at home. So that's not going to do any good. They were knocked out in the French Cup, they were runners-up in the Trophée des Champions, and they won the Russian Cup as well. So they've done the double in Russia in their first attempt. What round would they have entered in? Would it be the 4th round? It doesn't look like it. 5th round look like where they entered. They beat Volga 2-1 in the 5th round. They got through and they beat Avangard Kursk 1-0 in the 6th round. I'm very sorry for butchering your team's names. We've got a 3-0 win over Ural in the quarters. They had Zenit in the semi-finals where they won 1-0. And then they won on penalties against CSKA Moscow in the final. So in their first year, they've done the double. So other than the Champions League and the Super Cup, they've pretty much won it all. So they've brought no players in. They haven't had to buy any players in. And they've let a few players go out on loan. So no major ins, no major outs, but of course they've got to adhere to Russia's registrations, which I believe is a maximum amount of foreign players. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on as far as bringing players in. So we're going to go 2 years in the future now and see if they've managed to build upon this success. Can they win a Champions League while they're in Russia? And can they raise the league profile? Because if we look at the Russian Premier Division, they're still in 6th place. So it'll be interesting to see if they manage to improve the league standard. So I will see you in 2 seasons' time. It's been 2 full seasons now. It's the year 2020. Let's have a look and see if they've improved on their dynasty they seem to be building in Russia. So we'll go through each competition individually. So it looks like they've won the most recent Russian Premier Division. So as I say, we'll go through year by year. So this was the first season we've already seen, 79 points. And the second season, they won the league again, 75 points this time, and they only lost once away to Ufa all season, and they were 9 points clear at the top. So again, no real challenges to their crown. And in the most latest season, again, they went unbeaten. They didn't lose a single league game all season. Drew 6, most of them away from home, but they won the majority of their games. So it doesn't look like the Russian stranglehold of PSG seems to be stopping anytime soon. But we'll have a look at the Champions League. We'll see how they got on in the 2 seasons. So we'll start the group stages. So what group were they in? Let's have a look. They were in Group F, and they didn't make it out of the group stage. So it's the first time I've seen it where they've not made it out of the group stage. They would have dropped into the Europa League for this season. They were knocked out by Basel and Chelsea, and they were on the same points. They must have lost the head-to-head against Basel, but that's very interesting. So if we drop into the Europa League, and it'll be the first qualifying round, they must have dropped into it. There we are. So we can see them there. So they beat Feyenoord 5-1 on aggregate in the first knockout round of the Europa League. They beat Spartak Moscow, the domestic rivals. They beat them 4-1 to advance to the quarterfinals. They had Atletico Bilbao. They beat them 3-2. So they got a good run in the Europa League, got to the semis. They beat Inter Milan 3-2. So scraped past Inter Milan. They'll be going up against Monaco in the final. So an old domestic rivalry renewed. Did they win the Europa League? They did. They won 4-1. So that's 2 league titles, a Russian Cup, and a Europa League to their trophy haul. So they did manage to win the Europa League. But how did they get on in the latest season in the Champions League? Did they make it out to the group stage this time? They did, and they topped the group with Real Madrid as well. So they must have had a better head-to-head than Real Madrid. They also had Salzburg and Sparta Prague in their group. So in the first knockout round, they beat Leverkusen 5-0 on aggregate. Sorry, 5-4 on aggregate. So they've turned it around in the second leg from the looks of it. But they got knocked out by Real Madrid on away goals. So the team that they got out to the group with knocked them out in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. So no Champions League winners yet, but they have won 3 league titles and a Europa League. Now, so they would have got to the European Super Cup because they won Europa League. The runners up to Bayern Munich though, so they would have won the Champions League in the same season. Now they've won the latest Russian Cup, so we can see that in the corner, but they didn't win it the year before. So what we'll do is we'll start from the 5th round. We'll look at the year they won it. So they beat Kuban 2-0 in the 5th round. They beat Orenburg 2-1 in the 6th round. They beat Rostov 3-0 in the quarterfinals. Oh, I'm in the latest season. Oh, so this is the season they didn't win it. So they were knocked out 2-1 by Moscow in the semi-finals of the season they didn't win it. But if we go to the year they did win it, so this is the latest season, they beat Saturn 2-1 in the 5th round. They beat Rostov 3-1 in the 6th. They beat Krasnodar 2-0 in the quarterfinals. They beat Rubin Kazan 3-0 in the semis. And they beat Akhmat I'm sure that's how you say it, 1-0 in the final. So they've won 2 cups whilst they've been in Russia. 3 leagues, 2 cups, and a Europa League. That is pretty good going. Did they win the Super Cup? They have. They've won it 2 years on the trot, because they wouldn't have been in it in the first year. But they beat Zenit 3-0 in the second year and 3-1 against Lokomotiv Moscow in the third year. So far, 3 league titles, 2 Russian Cups, 2 Super Cups, and a Europa League. And we're only in the third year. So let's have a look at the transfers. Let's see who they've brought in for this success. So 309 million in the second season. Obviously, again, Mbappe, 160 million. He's a pre-arranged transfer. So you take that out of the equation, that's 140 million they've spent on players. So they've brought in Barami from Porto. He's a left winger on the transfer list, so still at the club. Nicholas Mirin, he looks to be a youngster. No, he's 28 years old now, and they've already shipped him out to Red Bull Leipzig. Decore from Watford for £43 million. Is he a £43 million player? Chelsea are after him, and he is still getting games for PSG. So, they've got their money's worth. Nzonzi from Sevilla for £40 million. I think they're overpaying for these players, He's a rotation player, but did play a lot of games for PSG. Oliver Giroud from Chelsea from 17.25 million. They've already shipped him off to Inter Milan. Only played 5 games and 5 goals. So not very much value for money there. And Sergio Esqueredo from Sevilla for 27 million. And he's a left back who's been getting a few games on rotation. So no key players, I would say. But 309 million spent. But let's have a look at the outs. Because will the big players want to move out from Russia? So they've sold Rybo to Monaco for 36.5 mil. 7.5 mil for Nicholas Mirin. So it only lasted 6 months and they lost money on him. But apart from that, no big names going out. And in the latest year, 232 million spent. They got Fagulian from Galatasaray for 9 mil. Very much a rotation player. Predrag Rakovic is a goalkeeper. Looks to be their first choice. And Harry Kane from Spurs for 116 million. So they can still pull in the big players whilst they're in Russia, and he's been banging in the goals for PSG. Bentaleb from Schalke looks to be a first team player, 10 appearances, 14 off the bench. Thiago Maia, another defensive midfielder / left back. Well, I've always thought he was a left back, but it looks to be a holding midfielder. Only played 8 games in the season though. Alamani Traore from Monaco, he's a right back. They've brought him in for £31 million. And Issa Diop for 13.25 mil. Looks to be a backup centre-back. As far as outs go, nobody major. Meunier's gone to Atletico Madrid for 11.75 mil. Giroud went out to Inter Milan. That's pretty much it. So it doesn't look like the transfers are stopping, even though they are running away with the Russian competitions. They've done the Russian treble, the League, the Cup, and the Super Cup. So where do they go from here? It's only the Champions League they haven't won. So I will see you now in another 3 seasons. They're going to have another 3 years to try and win the Champions League. Will they keep on winning the Russian top division? I will see you in 3 seasons' time. And here we are, the last time skip of this experiment in Russia for PSG. It's the year 2023 now, so another 3 seasons. Can PSG win? I can't even spell Paris. I have to look this way because the mic's in the way. So PSG, can they win the Champions League for another 3 seasons? Let's have a look. We'll go through each competition. So it looks like they've won the Russian league this season. We'll have a look at the league tables. So you've seen the first 3 seasons. So this was the latest season we'd seen. 78 points, 8 points clear of Spartak Moscow. They won the league the year after. Oof, Christ, they were what? 14 points clear of CSKA Moscow. They were then won the league again, where they were 14 points clear. And then they won the league again, where they were another 14 points clear. So PSG have won the Russian league in every single year they have been in this league, but they haven't improved the performance of the reputation. So they are still the 6th best league in Europe. So it doesn't matter how good PSG are and how far they get in these competitions, they can't improve the reputation of the league. But we'll have a look at the Champions League. We'll see if they have managed to win the Champions League in the last 3 years. So we've seen these 3 years. So it'll be 21, 22 and the current season. So the 4th season, where are they? There we are. So they were in Group B. They were the group winners with AC Milan, Lyon and Stuttgart. Quite a tricky group. Good teams in there. In the first round, they beat Roma 2-1 in the first knockout round. They lost to Real Madrid again, though. They lost to them the season before. So Real Madrid seem to be the bugbear of Russia. Well, not so much of Russia, but of PSG at the moment. So in the 5th season, they were in Group H at the bottom. They had Arsenal, Sevilla, and Red Bull Salzburg. Another tricky group, but they did get out of it as the group winners. So they looks like they're consistently getting out of the group, except for the 1 year that they didn't, so that doesn't make them consistent. But you know what I mean. But first knockout round, they lost to Tottenham 2-1 in the first knockout rounds. They didn't make it out that year. And the latest season, where are they now? So they get in Group E. So they were second behind Atletico Madrid, Inter Milan and Sparta Prague. So they did get second out of that group. Did they get past the first knockout round? They didn't. They lost to Man City 4-3. So they haven't got past the first knockout round in 2 seasons. So the Champions League hasn't been kind to PSG. So no Champions League, but they did win a Europa League, was in Russia. So the Russian Cup, we'll have a look at these. So they'd won 2 Russian Cups when we last checked. So we need to do the 2021 season. So they beat Tosno 2-0 in the 5th round. In the 4th season, they beat Shinnik 2-1 in the 6th round. But they lost in the quarterfinals to Dynamo SPB St. Petersburg, who are in the league below. So they lost to a lower league team for the first time in the Russian Cup. So in the 5th season, they beat Arsenal Tula 3-0 in the 5th round. Who do they have? They beat Spartak Nalchik 4-0 in the 6th round. They beat Rubin Kazan 3-0 in the quarterfinal. They beat CSKA Moscow 3-1 in the semi-final. Did they win in the final against Zenit? They did. They won 1-0. So that's 3 cups for PSG whilst they've been in Russia. And in the latest season, they beat Orenburg 2-1 in the 5th round. They beat Chernomorets 2-1 in the 6th round. They beat Spartak Moscow 3-1 in the quarters. But they lost to CSKA Moscow in the semi-final. So they didn't win the cup that year. So only 3 cups PSG managed to win whilst in Russia. And did they win any more Super Cups? So we know about these 2 wins. They won it in the 4th season. They lost it in the 5th season. And lost it in the 6th season in the exact same result. So they only won 3 Super Cups whilst they're in Russia. So overall, they won 6 league titles. They won 3 Russian Cups, 3 Super Cups, and a Europa League. So we'll have a look at the transfers to see if they've made any big name transfers over the last 3 years. So in the 4th season, £141 million spent. They spent 56 on Mikel Kuznants. Doesn't have a picture, I've not heard of him. Is he possibly a regen? No, he can't be. He was at Nancy in the 2014 season, but he's a world-class midfielder. 26 appearances, still at the club. So it must be a very good sign-in. Koulibaly for 59 million. Solid centre-back. In fact, he's described as a solid centre-back. Still at the club, 29 appearances made. Anthony Knockhart from Brighton, who they've looked to have moved on to Bournemouth already. Only made 13 appearances. And they spent 25 mil on him. And Tony Dupont looks to be a regen, still at the club. Outs, Kimpembe's gone to Leicester. Trapp's gone to Watford. Barami's gone to Udinese. Kurzawa's gone to Man City for 22 mil. But no major outs. So look to be stockpiling the players at the moment. Season 5. Segura was a youth player, I believe. They only bought him for 375k. Ndidi from Leicester from 44 mil. Already moved him on to Man City though. Looked to be for 1 season. And then moved him on. So did they make a profit on him? We will find out in a second. Clinton NG from Celtic for 7 mil. Mehdi Larice from AC Milan. Again, they've looked to already moved him on to Shakhtar Donetsk. But they bought him in for 28 mil. They brought Larice in for. Lunev for 5.5 mil. Ruiz for 575k. And this looks to be the big one. Felice Damasio for £73 million. An attacking midfielder. Elite attacking midfielder. 25 appearances, 14 goals in the most recent year. Still at the club. And looks to be one of their key players. Malang Sarr from Nice. They've got him in, although he is wanted by AS Monaco. Centre-back or left-back. And Malcolm from Porto looked to have already moved him on as well. He only played 6 games for PSG. So we'll have a look at the outs. So Areola went out to Stoke for 13 mil. Guedes went out for 53 million to Bayern Munich. So big name players are leaving PSG. Issa Diop left for 11.5. Draxler went for nearly 20 mil to Bayern. Traore went to Lazio. Knockhart went to 8.25 mil. So he only lasted 1 season for the looks of it, or a season and a half, before going up for less than 10 mil. And Bentelev went to Yangzhou in China for £32 million. So as much as they spent 210 mil, they did make 153 of it back. They've only spent about 60 mil, which isn't too bad for PSG. And in the latest season, they brought in Diamande for 850k. Kylian Pons for 1.3. Ousmane Dembele from Man City for £104 million. So he's gone from Barcelona to Man City to PSG. So he's gone for 104 mil, 75 mil and 104 mil. So it's almost, well, including the 24 mil, he has gone for £307 million for a player. That's insane money. That's more than a Neymar, that is. So he is the big signing, looks to be. Maximilian Woba from Benfica for £27 million. Looks to be a centre-back. Looks to be a starter from the looks of it. Achraf from Real Madrid, a right-back they've brought in. They brought him in for 37 mil. Antonio Barreca from, looks to be Torino? Yeah, Torino. For 45 million. A left-back. Looks to be their starter. Bertrand Traore from Lyon. They brought him in for 28 mil. So he's a right winger. So a lot of big name signings coming in. Musonda they brought in on a free. But he's very much a rotation player. Orsini for 400k. Looks to be a youth player. Bardi looks to be a youth player. Dede for 575k. Looks to be a youth player. And Alain Saint-Maximin from Celtic for 16.75 mil. So they look to be bringing a lot of French players, even though they're based in Russia. And he is a right winger. As far as outs go, Marquinhos for 38 mil. Ndidi for 39 mil. Thiago Silva went to Lazio for 450k. Although he is now 38 years old. And his physicals are absolutely shocking. But those mentals and physicals are pretty good. Who else? Larice went out. We've seen that. NG went to Bordeaux. And Malcolm went to Leverkusen. So they seem to bring in players for a season and then sell them on for less than what they're worth. So that is the transfers they've brought in. And the question we have to ask is, can PSG win in Russia? Convincingly, very much so. But they couldn't improve the reputation of Russia. So it doesn't matter if you put a big team in a league like Russia, they will not improve the reputation. So the last thing we need to check is the team that we replaced for PSG in the French league. We'll have a look at the league table. So it was Karabovsk, or we're going to call them SKA. So we're relegated to Ligue 2 in their first year. They only won 1 game and lost 33, so they were very much outclassed in the French First Division. So clearly we're not a quality team for the French League, well, the Ligue 1. So how do they do in the second division in France? They got relegated again. So double relegation for SKA Karabakh. They were 2 points off Havre, but they were a good 9 points off being safe. Did they come back up in their next year? No, they didn't. Did they come back up in this season? No. And not in the latest year. So they are still, from the looks of it, in the French National, which I didn't even load up the French National because I didn't think they'd go down that far. But they look to be stuck in the third division of French football, 2 relegations back to back. So it doesn't look like, unfortunately, SKA fans, if we move you to the French League, you're not going to be doing very well. So that's going to be it for the experiment. Let me get old PSG back up here. So the question we ask, can PSG win in Russia? Yes, they can. Leave a like if you enjoy, guys. We will leave the remaining episodes in the comments down below. And we've already put something in the top corner there somewhere. If I remember, we'll put something up in the top corner so you can see how PSG have done in the other countries in this experiment. Please subscribe for the channel for more Football Manager 2018. We've currently got a Saving Swan series going on for Swansea City. And we've also got the experiments going on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Also on Twitter, @SuperSwanYT. Drop me a tweet with how you think PSG have done in Russia. Could they have done more? Have you tried it yourself? Have they done better than what I've done? Let me know. And hopefully I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.